Welcome to Passion and Profit. If you're a small business owner or solo entrepreneur, this episode is for you. It would not only help you achieve your business goals, but it will also help you enjoy the process. Let's get started.
What better person who's going to understand your struggles as a business owner, as a creative, than your competitor? And that's been really, really valuable. We could do it alone, but why would we?
Passion and Profit with your host, Dalmith Morales, the podcast for makers and manufacturers. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Dalmith. This podcast is created by Inventora, the all-in-one inventory system for makers and manufacturers. Today, I'm very excited because we are going to be chatting with Carla and Michelle, both successful candle makers who joined their powers to create an incredible candle business together. And I'm just excited for you guys to listen to their story, what are they being up to, and the importance of creating a partnership instead of over competition. So I'm really excited to have you, Michelle and Carla. Thank you for being here. Can you just say hello to our audience and yeah.
I'm Carla Corazon.
Hi, I'm Michelle Barrio Nuevo Mazzini, and together we're Casita del Soul.
Hey.
So before we begin, I would like for each one of you to tell us a little bit about yourselves and what's your background.
I'll let you go first, Carla.
All right, here we go. Once upon a time in San Salvador, your girl was born during a, pretty big civil war. My parents immigrated to Toronto, Canada, so I'm Canadian. I grew up there. And then about 10 years ago, I immigrated to the United States. I spent first 5 years in Boston and the last 5-6 years in California. So when I moved to San Diego is when I started making candles. It was before the pandemic, so it's very funny because you can study things and say, okay, this is the perfect moment, and then the whole world can change on you. So it's what a first couple of years to have my very first business. Yeah, so that's kind of how I came to be. I know Michelle is very proud of her origins. I'll let her give her background.
Yeah, so I am born and raised in San Francisco, California, to South American immigrants. My mother immigrated from Peru. My father immigrated from Argentina in the late 60s, early 70s. And that was wild. They met in New York, where my brothers were born. And then once they got tired of the cold, in the 70s, they came to California and I was born. And I think I'm so proud of my upbringing because I feel like so much of my neighborhood, my childhood, my surroundings has shaped me into the woman, the business, the entrepreneur that I am today. I have tried to leave California. I've lived in Southern California, which is where I met Carla. I've lived in Maui. So I've tried to leave to shift my perspective, but I always end up back in the Bay Area where to me is home. A lot of myself and my husband's family is. And yeah, it's been a journey, but Carla and I met when I was living for the past 6 years in Orange County, California. And similar to Carla, I found myself in a pretty dark place amidst COVID, a business that I've had at the time for 15 years because I owned a small business, kind of took a nosedive as many did. And I found myself lacking creativity and needing that outlet. And that's what led us to becoming candle makers, essentially.
That's something that I love to hear when people are like maybe in the worst place, but they're taking that to create something beautiful and something empowering. Like you guys took that and straighten your forces and say, okay, let's take this and make something. Um, don't be depressed. I'm going to make something from this. So I love that. And how did you guys learn to make candles? Why candles?
I guess I'll start on that one. As I mentioned, for me, I was, pretty early on into COVID, I was struggling creativity. I needed an outlet to pour my creative energy into. I had always loved candles. For me, it was like a form of, self-care. Like literally on my nightstand, I tell a story that there was probably 20 different mini candles. But a lot of the times, the reason I had so many candles was I couldn't enjoy a lot of them to the fullest because of all the harsh chemicals and toxins that were in candles. And it really led me to kind of start my own journey of like, during COVID, I'm like, I'm going to make candles, not thinking how hard it's going to be. Like Carla said, like you get an idea sometimes and then you don't really think of like everything that's involved.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there at a table with my husband's cousins, like, what should I do? And we're talking of all these different ideas, and candle making came up. I remember going home that day and deciding that I personally was going to use my stimulus money and invest it back in myself and begin purchasing candle supplies. And so I am a self-taught candle maker. I think I poured hundreds of hours into YouTube videos that, thank God for a shout out to all those makers that were around making content for us, really older ones too, not even newer makers. It was channels that I had found of makers that had been around for quite some time, and a lot of articles and blogs, and then a lot of experimentation. For me, I would say maybe 6 to 8 months before launching. But for me, I knew early on that I was not just creating a candle. I wanted to build something with purpose and intent. And I just did not see enough of myself represented in the home fragrance space, in funny sayings that kind of hit. And that kind of led me to create Casita Michi at the time.
I love that. What about you, Carla?
Yeah, for me, I think there's so much cultural connection with candles. As Latinas, we do it when we're like, I'm gonna light a candle for this person. And I always really love the kind of direct spirituality that you can have in that format. And I thought it was really beautiful. And actually, I used to get in a lot of trouble because I love candles, but it was too many. And then I'm like, esto es brujeria, There's like, it really ignites my like witch energy, and that makes me feel very empowered. Yeah.
And well, I see like the meaning of candles for each one of you. It's very different, but it's so interesting to know that you guys are working together, and that I believe, well, I'm just seeing both of you and listen to you. You're very different, and probably I'm right. Am I right?
We are and we are. So it's like, right? It's like we are and we aren't, because I think, ultimately our mission and our purpose of our brands, when we found each other, when, we stumbled upon each other pretty early on in, I think Carla was already 2 years because she launched a year before me. She was 2 years into her journey. I was a year into her journey. The purpose was there of why we were creating candles, which was to celebrate our cultura. So that was the main thing, right? So that was aligned. And then why did we want to celebrate cultura? And it was reclaiming our space, essentially, reclaiming that space back, celebrating unapologetically, practicing self-care unapologetically, but also putting stresses on candles that made you feel special, empowered, motivated, funny, inspired. So those were the things that were very much alike. Like those aligned very early on. Obviously, our personalities, that's, like we're like a married couple. We balance each other out.
That's true.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what better person who's going to understand your struggles as a business owner, as a creative, than your competitor? And that's been really, really valuable. We could do it alone, but why would we? This way, we're sharing notes with each other. We're learning faster. It's been a so much better way to do business, and the other way can be so lonely.
That's true. I have been having like episodes with other makers, and that is something that they mentioned, that they need to find a community or someone else like to build their support circle, just because it's too much. Like if you handle everything just by yourself, marketing, making the candles, finances, inventory, if you take all of that and do it just by yourself, it's overwhelming, and probably your mental health is going to hurt. So I think what you guys did, it's really good. And I want to know what made you start working together? Like where did that idea came up?
I'm gonna let this over.
Sure. I heard about this other candle maker, and I'm like, oh my God, we have a similar name. Who is this? So I
Yes, because for those who don't know, at the time, Carla was Casita Candle, and my company's Casita Michi. So, yes.
Yeah, and we're in the same space. So we're like, oh my God. But I think what's really beautiful is that both of us really wanted to be of service to community. And that kind of like shared value has always united us. I think it was during the pandemic when we had all these supply chain shortages. It was rough out there if you were a maker. Getting your hands on raw supplies was very, very hard. And we found ourselves competing with better funded, you know, other people with big bucks. We couldn't compete with the other people who were purchasing. So we ended up combining our purchasing power and buying in bulk together strategically, and then share the savings between us. Yeah, so that was the first thing.
Our first meeting with Carla coming to my home to pick up vessels that we had bought wholesale together.
We're both resourceful as hell.
I love that. I think that's so smart and humble at the same time, because probably if you are there in that tough like position and someone asks you how you doing, how your business is doing, and you don't want anyone to know that you're having a hard time. But that what you did was like, hey, I need to like open my eyes, see my reality, and say I need help. And what better thing to do like merging and amazingly with your competition, right? So I love what you guys did there. So I know that you guys have mentioned that you both are Latinas. So, and I want to know your experience, like being Latinas business owners in the US. What challenges have you had? What is your experience?
Well, for the sake of time, Delmith, I could be all day here talking about that. Where do we start, right, Carla?
It's been spicy.
For lack of better, I would say, I'm going to take this over because Carla knows I'm the money person. And it's like, and
mama,
that has been the hardest. I think what a lot of people don't realize, and not just Latinas, right? Just the BIPOC community, right? We are over-mentored and underfunded. And what I mean by that is there's resources for us to get, ideas, information, but the funding is very limited or hardly doesn't exist. It is incredibly hard for us to get lines of credit to fund our businesses, to keep our businesses afloat. For someone like me that early on in the part of my business, I landed a retail account. I don't think a lot of people realize to be able to fund over $20,000, $30,000 in purchase orders for months at a time where I'm not going to see that money. it was a struggle. I have a family. I can't put everything on the line. So I think specifically as it relates to Carla and I, which kind of really led us to create a partnership, right? Because we met, as Carla said, right? We met and we still had our individual businesses, right? And we still kept moving along like nothing. And then about 2 years ago, maybe about 6 to 8 months after we met, Carla had the opportunity, a lot of opportunities coming her way. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
because of the limited funds and the limited capital and just things not being easily accessible to her, she was not able to take or fulfill a lot of these opportunities. There's also space, right? And if you're working out of your home, you're limited on space, you're limited on storage, especially living in California, rents are high. And so there was all these obstacles. And essentially how we started working together was I became her production partner while she was still running Casita Campus, meaning almost like white label. We agreed that I would produce, and that takes a level of trust, right? A huge level of trust. Because now she gave me her formulas, she gave me all her scents and everything. I did it more because I wanted to see her win. I know maybe a lot of people don't realize, like, that sounds weird, right? But I did feel like there was enough space for all of us. And I still feel that, to thrive and shine, right? While we were two Latinas that had products catering to our community, you could support both. They both hit different. They both had different messages, yet the same, but they weren't exactly identical, right? And so I wanted her product to still exist because I enjoyed her product. And yeah, that was a perfect example of how much harder it is. I took over. We had no luxury to hire a third party, a 3PL, to take over our manufacturing. I became Carla's manufacturing because I had already set up the proper SOPs in my own little garage of how to manufacture candles, in micro batches, 300-400 at a time. And Carla was unfortunately just not equipped to do that, right? And
No.
I realized that, and I didn't want her to say no to these accounts because I was like, Carla, these are accounts most people would dream about having, some of these corporate accounts that were coming her way, right? So that's what's really unfortunate, that people don't realize that sometimes the opportunities are there. We're unable to fulfill them because we lack the capital, we lack the resources, we lack the tools allowing us to scale. And this is where her and I just decided we were going to forge our own path. And what was that going to look like, And essentially that's how we initially started working together, because of the lack of resources, because of the lack of capital, the lack of space, and me just really wanting to see her win and thrive. And I think it was a good business decision for both of us. The reality is, because I'm fully transparent, it was good business for her. It was good business for me. I was making some income, and in the process, I was helping a fellow Latina.
Yeah, it was great. There was also I got invited to a LinkedIn event in San Francisco, and I'm like, Michelle, this is your hometown. Let's go. So I brought her with me, and it was wild because people couldn't really understand what was happening. I think one of the interesting things about both of us being Latina with a similar name, people were really pitting us against each other. You were team this, and they're like, huh? And I'm like, there's another way. If we get organized, we can go much further together. And yeah, it's been really great. I've gotten so many inquiries that it was so flattering but overwhelming. And now with Michelle, I have the confidence to take on trying to do, and that's to be a service to community.
Yeah, I love that. You guys, your story is beautiful. I love how you love each other. I know that you want to see both of you grow, and I love it. I think this is a great example of creating a partnership instead of competition. So I also want to know, so just to be clear, you both still have like your own businesses and together have one business?
No.
Yes and no. How I explain it is Casita Candles has evolved. And it is Casita del Soul. So that is what I have the capacity for, and what keeps me creative and energized. And yeah, we actually have our first event coming up. We're sponsoring a Gordita y Bonita pool party. So that's like, we just want to do more things to be in community, in person. Michelle does these really incredible candle making workshops. So there's just a lot there. The future is so fruitful.
So the difference, segments. So I still have Casita Michi, right? Because Casita Michi for me, is already established brand in retail and in other areas. What Carla's failing to say is that last year she was like, "I'm done, y'all." I was like, "Oh no, you're not."
Yeah, I'm like, I can't.
She was like, "I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm retiring my business." And mind you, Carla and I. So people on the other end understand. We talk like every week. Like we're friends. We're not just business partners. We're beyond that. Our husbands have traveled together. We're friends, right? So she's just like, I'm done. And I was like, what do we mean? She's like, I'm closing shop. I'm having a blowout sale. We're retiring everything. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what we're not gonna do. I was like, a part of me was really sad that Carla, some of her candles that I feel are like her love letter to the community, were gonna go away. Big Hoop Energy, Plant Mommy, Senora Era. And I was struggling, and I told her, I was very honest. And because this is a podcast for candle makers, I was like, girl, you retire that, and another candle maker is going to go make those candles. I was like, and it's going to hurt me because, like, those are your babies that you came up with, right? And I was like, we need to find a way for them to live on, And we had already been doing wholesale behind the scene under Casita. So whenever we get curated accounts, like we did one for Google earlier this year for their Latinx student summit, right? We decide which ones will be filtered under Casita Michi, Casita del Soul. When we feel that our community deserves two of us, not just one person on the project, two people doing insight, design, creativity, that is a project that we funnel through Casita del Soul, because our purpose is that you're getting two FIs versus one, right? And you're getting this curated hands-on experience. And so after a lot of conversation and a lot of trust, she decided, let's evolve Casita Candles into Casita del Soul. You continue taking production, and I will serve as like basically design and, a lot of what Carla does, she's so creative, is she thinks of things, that's the right part of your brain that sometimes it's not like always. She's the right part of my brain. Okay. So like sometimes I'm like sitting there and I'm stuck, and vice versa. She fills in a lot of those gaps. Right. And so a lot of hers is like creative direction now. When we get these projects, she'll come up like, oh, let's propose this, or maybe they might want to do this or that. And so it's really cool because now under Casita del Soul, which we've shared, right? When our contacts reach out, we have a blurb, we introduce ourselves, they understand, it's aligned, they know that now, consider it a house, right? This is the casita, and under that casita lives Casita del Soul and Casita Michi. That's how we call it. Sister brands, there's a full-on connectivity, there's a full-on synergy there, and we all live in this one big happy house together, and we really trying to serve our community.
And the other cool thing, we've been reached out to a lot from different design agencies and ad agencies for very creative takes. So we pitched a very unique Alice in Wonderland candle. We've done all kinds of really unique, one-of-a-kind custom pieces. And that's been really fueling me. I find it very exciting. and it brings back a lot of the play that became missing for me. So now I have like an outlet, and the support of Michelle, and it's just been so beautiful.
Yeah, I think this is like so great because you guys now can say if something comes up and a big opportunity comes up to your plate, you can say, yes, we can do it. To take it together, you are capable of growing and doing a lot of things that can give you the confidence of growing, right? That is something that you honestly couldn't do by yourselves. And probably the growth that you both had, like separately, wouldn't be the same if you guys are together right now. So
For sure.
I think this is very like interesting, beautiful to learn, because I know that a lot of makers probably are thinking about it, or but saying no, but it's my competition, or no, I don't want anyone else to receive part of my income because that is mine, or I don't know. It's a lot of things that come up in your mind that are going to like make you overthink everything. But listening to you guys, it's just like the perfect answer of it is possible, right? It is something that a lot of people can do, and it is worth it because you are going to be able to have a better opportunities, grow more as a person and also as a business owner, right?
I think it's possible people put their ego aside. Wouldn't you agree, Carla? Because like, I think a lot of it early on was, because she knows I don't like to sugarcoat it. We spent a year, we're on 3 years now, friendship, right? And working together. We spent a year getting to know each other. And we weren't always on the same page. What it took was us getting over our egos and seeing the bigger picture. And when we realized that people, like Carla said, were trying to pit us against each other, they would accidentally tag us. If you bought from Casita Michi, they would tag Casita Candles. And if you bought from Casita, and it was happening pretty frequently. And then people are going on a website and they thought they bought a Casita Michi candle, but they bought a Casita candle, and vice versa. It was wild for a while. We would share emails like, "Oh, hey, I thought I was buying this candle." Like, and we were driving each other's traffic, right? According to Google Analytics, if you Googled us, we were giving each other, the algorithm was picking us both up. So we were driving traffic to each other's because of the casita part. And because there was parts in our bio that said, we were Latina, and there were words and things like that. And so it was getting through a lot of what we were feeling early on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing to not miss is that it's good business.
Oh, it's so good.
One of the earlier conversations, I was like, oh, I'm getting like hit up for all these projects and I can't complete them. And she was just like, girl, we need to work on that then. I mean, and when it came down to it, I was still very anxious and I don't know. And she's like, if you're not going to take these opportunities, get out of the way. What are you doing? And I was like, damn, she's right. Let's go.
And the thing was, that was it, right? In the beginning, people were like, I wasn't trying to take up. I was trying to push her, like, do this. Like, I was pushing her, like, I didn't want these opportunities. I didn't want her to pass on them,
Yeah, you had compassion for me. In that moment, you could have been wildly annoyed with me. And you just, I never want to talk to her again. But you saw a person that was overwhelmed, and you're a solutions person, and you looked out for me in that moment. And I feel like we've been healing each other, and we've been looking out for each other And that's been like so giving.
And it's just, like she said, it's smart business. Well, because
And it's good business.
in our community, Delmet, you know that sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. That's the reality, right? And unfortunately, both Carla and I have generational trauma, cultural trauma, and a lot of our storytelling is cultural nuances. And a lot of our brand, we always say our brand is not just a candle, it's a story. It's a story of our upbringing, of shaping perspective, cultural nuances, and how our culture is so woven into who we are as people, and how we're putting that into a candle so that other people feel seen and feel empowered, and really want to reclaim that space again. So it's so much more now. It's wild for Carla and I to think that our candles have made people feel all these things that in our head we wanted them to feel, but then when it's actually happening. So to be able to work together in Casita del Soul, and that it really, I feel like Carla and I really are the champions of community over competition. So many people say they're about that, but they don't embody that. And Carla and I embody that every week when we have conversations to motivate, uplift each other, whichever project we're working on. If we're feeling down, which happens very often, if we're feeling defeated, if one of us just doesn't want to push through anymore, it's like she's there for me and vice versa. And I would say, other makers, we are in a saturated market. That is the reality. COVID opened up the floodgates for a lot of new makers. And the reality is with any business, time will tell who's in it for the long haul and who's treating it just like a hobby. And I would say if you're not treating it as a hobby, it is never bad business to align yourself with people that share mission, value, overall things, even if it's just to have a coffee and say, hey, candle maker, I'm going through this. Can we share? Because I've learned gatekeeping will only get you so far, and I think for us, like, obviously there's things as candle makers that are proprietary, right? Carla and I have now proprietary things that we wouldn't share with other people because Carla and I have put in 4 years combined, creating those processes, those formulas, those things, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. Honestly, I couldn't picture. I don't have a cubicle to go into every day and a coworker to talk to. She's my everything when it comes to that.
Oh, I mean, also if you think about it, what is the alternative? I feel like two men maybe would have killed each other. But like the alternative is so negative in your body. I'm like, I don't want that. What else can I do? But let's try something different. And I'm so glad that I did.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think it is very smart what you guys did, like saying, okay, you can take care of the production, I'll take care of the creative part. So that way you work together, but you like don't cross paths on what you do in your daily tasks, right? I think this is very smart to do. So you can work like better, I think. Like you don't like have any, I don't know how can I say this, but I think it's very smart to delegate and see the strengths of each other and understand, like saying, okay, this part it's not for me, and you're very good at it, so you can take care of that, and I'll take care of the other part of the business, and together you create something beautiful, and you work like smarter and not harder, and you have a better flow. So I think that's so good that you guys have find a way to work together, and that is what has been like making you successful. And I think that's something that everybody should learn to do when they're thinking about doing like a merging with another. business owner?
I think it takes a lot of leadership, like
Yeah.
I'll give it to Michelle. She watched me for like a year, and then she's like, okay, I get it. I know where your like weaknesses and your strengths are. Okay, now I get it. Let's go. I know how to work with you now. But that takes a lot of patience and leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that you guys, during the first year, you didn't know how to work together.
Yeah.
And that's why it took you.
It was trial and error, because I mean, there were moments where we were butting heads, and again, it was I think, like she said, it was like figuring out, right? I remember at the time I had a pro bono business coach, and he said, this will only work if you lack things that Carla has and Carla lacks things that you have, because you guys have to fill in the gaps. And fortunately for us, we did. There's things that I was lacking that she filled in.
I like a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that is the most important part to handle when you start, like getting to know each other personally and as business owners, and to understand what you can do and what you cannot do. So the flow of the daily task is easier. So I think I just want to know what's next for Casita del Soul.
Yeah, who's gonna spill the beans? Who's gonna spill the frijoles? Michelle, you go.
Wait, what is it? No, I mean, we are still very much in the evolving and growing. I think we're here really. Carla has taught me that it's okay to go in with a plan and then change it 2 months later, right? So I think we are allowing ourselves to organically grow as Casita del Soul, whatever comes our way. We decide if it's a good fit for us or not. So right now, we get hit up, every few weeks for custom collaboration projects and wholesale projects that are really, like she said, really cool. And so we've been actively working on those. We work together to ensure that we're trading around a proposal that's really reflective of the product that we want to put out there. And we've been working on that. And so we really, anybody that's listening that has connections to ERG teams or whatnot, like that's really what our strength is that the curating part. Now there's 2 of us. So we're working on that. And then, as Carla mentioned, our goal is to continue doing community-based events. What those look like, it could be different every time. She's doing the Gordita y Bonita in partnership with Chicali Products. And it's really just, I think those are things that align with, being yourself, being comfortable with your body, expression. And so along the way, our goal is in the community to do that is geared towards Latinas specifically, towards our community, where we provide an inclusive and safe space to share, to gather, to network, to express yourself, whether that's spiritually, holistically, through self-care, all those things that kind of embody who Carla and I are and things that we practice in our everyday
life. I'm excited to see all of that coming alive.
Thank you.
So, yes, I really appreciate you guys' time. I would like just like a very short and sweet piece of advice that you want to give all the makers out there.
Don't be afraid to fail. Embrace the failure as part of the process.
Know that success does not happen overnight. Just like World 1 has been built in a day, I think that there's so much content out there that could be very overwhelming for candle makers specifically. When we see our competition winning, obviously social media does that. It has a good way of showing all the good. And Carla knows I've always been on this journey to share with our community the real, the good and the bad. And so I would say to fellow candle makers, we're all going through a really tough year this year. The economy, a shift in retail, how people purchase. Understand that success doesn't happen overnight. We are going to experience highs and lows, and it's how you push through and hang on. Just hang on, pivot. Don't be afraid, like Carla said, to fail. Don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to try new things and see if they hit and see if they not.
I mean, that's how you learn, right?
Definitely. I completely agree. Just don't be afraid. Trust your gut and go with the flow as well. Sometimes we just want to have everything in control. And with being small business owners, that doesn't happen. We can not have everything in control. So I love the advice that you guys gave. Thank you so much for your time. There you have, everyone, my conversation with Carla and Michelle. Go check out their businesses in the link of the show notes. I hope you find this episode helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a follow, and if you like the episode, please share it with your friends. And until next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And if you're interested to learn more about Inventora and how can we help you plan your productions and what needs to be made, visit inventora.com.